Also, I mean, one thing that we were just talking about backstage before this match, Rosemary, we have 3 Sinistra in top 4 here. I don't know that I ever would have expected that.
And Dylan Matthews and Daniel, you were running the exact same team. So it's going to be Matt, that's going to be the other Sinistra, a little bit different in terms of that Hariyama on the team. And definitely one of the best performances we've seen from Hariyama in a while.
Yeah.
But yes, Dylan Matthews and Daniel Yu will share the same 6 Pokemon as well as the same sets. And so very exciting to see both of them do so well at this tournament. After Daniel Yu made it to the finals of Atlanta to face his friend in a mirror as well.
That could happen again, but Matt Tid will be doing his best to make sure it doesn't. And he's running that heat-proof Sinistra alongside King Gambit, Haryana, Volcarona, Archaludon, and Primarina. That Calm Mind, Mental Herb, heat-proof Sinistra was doing a lot of work in that last round. It was really cool to see that Machagacha being not only just a way to do a little bit of damage, but also keep that Sinistra healthy. That Dark Terra can come in very handy against a lot of different teams as well. And heat-proof being a really cool adaptation that most trainers, I think, wouldn't even consider on a Pokemon that has a really good ability like Hospitality.
Exactly, and that's what Dylan has. Dylan and Daniel both have Hospitality as the ability on their own Sinistras, so Heatproof definitely helping out with some of the more defensive capabilities, not just on the Sinistra, but you got the Thick Fat on the Hariyama to half the damage of fire and ice type attacks, and you also just have other ways to make sure that you are helping mitigate damage, like Struggle Bug on the Volcarona, as well as just, the Calm Mind and just a couple of other nice supportive pieces.
I hope we get to see that Hariyama in this match. I don't know if it's showed up on stream in either of Matt's matches so far. But Dylan, if you just saw Daniel's team in our last match, it will look very familiar to you. It is the Hospitality Sinistra alongside Basculegion Male, Archaludon, Pelipper, Ursaluna, and Incineroar. A very potent Trick Room mode is how we saw Daniel take down Justin Tang. You have to wonder if Dylan is thinking the same thing for this match too.
You also just have the fast rain mode. With Swift Swim on the Basculegion, you can have the Pelipper set the rain. You've got the Archaludon to take advantage of the rain as well with those Electro shots. And Stamina could also prove to be quite beneficial in this matchup. You've got two very powerful physical attackers. I guess you can count the Archaludon if you're looking at something like Body Press, but Matt's actually doesn't even have that. So you're really just looking at the Hariyama and the King Gambit as the 2 physical attackers that maybe you want to have that Archaludon in front of. But you have to expect that there will be speed involved, whether it is like the Tailwind on the Pelipper, the Trick Room on the Sinistra, or even just the rain activating the Swift Swim ability on the Basculegion.
Interestingly enough, both trainers have access to both Trick Room and Tailwind, so we could see some pretty funky speed interactions coming through here. If one trainer opts to set up Tailwind, the other could try to go for a Trick Room with their Sinistra, hopefully reverse that speed interaction. So maybe you find yourself not wanting to set up that Tailwind immediately. Dylan, though, going straight for that fast mode. Pelipper Basculegion with the Swift Swim, and the Hariyama makes an appearance alongside the Sinistra. This might be a prime time for that first Trick Room here.
Really easy to just go for the fake out with the Hariyama as well as the Trick Room setup on the Sinistra. But there are ways that Dylan can actually punish this. Even if you get the fake out into the Pelipper, this Basculegion is still threatening you with something like a Last Respect. It's still going to be super effective damage into the Sinistra. And
of course, a rain-boosted Choice Band Wave Crash will do a lot of damage to this Hariyama as well. Pelipper protects itself, not wanting to have its Focus Sash broken by a fake out, which will go straight into that Protect, and now Basculegion has the chance to attack.
Basculegion is still going to be doing a lot with Wave Crash as well. We've seen what it can do, even if it is going to be a resisted hit. And Hariyama gets knocked out in one blow. That is the power of Basculegion with that Rain active and getting a same type attack bonus from the Wave Crash. It has to take a little recoil for its troubles, but it's such a big target out of the way that Assault Vest could have proved to be quite pesky into things like Dylan's own Archaludon.
Trick Room does go up though, so now Matt will have the chance to retaliate. This Primarina coming in here with the Choice Specs will be able to fire off some very powerful attacks. Dylan's Pelipper does not have wide guards, so you will not be able to block anything like Machagacha or Dazzling Gleam. I wonder if Machagacha is enough for a KO on this Basculegion after that recoil damage. Given the Calm Mind, it might be a little bit more offensively oriented than some trainers are used to. So if you are able to connect a Machagacha into both targets here and fire off an attack with Primarina, you could very quickly turn the tide.
But Dylan has supportive options here that you can switch in as defense, and that's going to be the Archaludon. You have the Assault Vest, so you will be taking these Moonblasts or these special attacks from this Primarina a little bit better, but that was single target damage into the Pelipper. Bringing it down to its Focus Sash, the Machagacha can pick up the rest. So 1 KO for Matt so far, as Dylan is going to see that score even. 3-3.
It's another instance of Pokemon getting knocked out before it can use an attack into a target that actually takes damage, so we're back to an even Pokemon count here. It's a nice turn for Matt. That Pelipper was threatening a big Hurricane into his own Sinistra, but now that Sinistra hits the field for Dylan, the Archelodon will return to full HP. The Primarina, since it locked into Moonblast, will not be able to damage the Archelodon on this coming turn unless it goes for this Terastallization. It is a grass type, would be very useful for getting around a possible Rage Powder, and of course making an Electro Shot resisted. And thanks to Archelodon's a little bit lower special defense, this Moonblast will still do a lot despite that Assault Vest.
A lot of damage on the table for both of our trainers as the Primarina undergoes Terastallization. With the Moonblast into this Archelodon, it does take it below half of its health. Stamina boost not going to be super pertinent versus either of these special attackers on the field for Matt. And the Calm Mind is going to make this even more difficult. Dylan's able to go for the Electro Shot now under these Trick Room conditions with his own Archelodon. And so depending on the target, I mean, at least you're getting the special attack boost, but into this Primarina that has freshly terrestrialized to the grass type, look at how well it's going to be able to take that damage. You're going to see these Electro Shots start to stack up, but Dylan's able to reverse the tides. Trick Room has now been undone with his own Sinistra.
This Archelodon now all of a sudden in a pretty good spot. Thanks to Primarina using that Terastallization, it is no longer a Fairy type, will be very vulnerable to a Dragon type attack from this Archelodon, in this case the Dragon Pulse. If it was Draco Meteor, I would confidently say it would knock out this Primarina, but it might be a little bit close.
Rage Powder from this Sinistra is not actually going to redirect away anything since both of these Pokemon are grass types, but the Dragon Pulse does not actually get the knockout onto the Primarina. And so this is going to be another Calm Mind boost that the Sinistra is able to get from Matt. So really reinforced Teacup as Archelodon is going to be the one that falls. Another Moonblast from this Primarina is plenty to finish it off. And so Dylan is going to be down to his final 2 Pokemon. The Basculegion gets to come back out, and these, with last respects, will be quite powerful.
With the info that we are privy to, we believe we see that King Gambit as Matt's final Pokemon, so I believe this is a really good spot to be in if you're Matt. It is that Safety Goggles variant, which will be able to damage the opposing Basculegion around Rage Powder. Last respects, with that boosted base power from 2 knocked out teammates, and of course that Choice Band will easily be enough to KO Matt's Sinistra before Trick Room can go up. The Machagacha is dodged. Thanks to that grass typing, likely would not have KO'd anyway. And now Primarina can knock out that Basculegion and bring Dylan down to just his Sinistra remaining.
This game is definitely over with the King Gambit being able to come in and also just get a powerful Kowtow Cleave. But maybe there's a way that Dylan can get through this if you can actually like strength sap the King Gambit.
Well, that'll just raise its attack.
As well. Yeah, I know.
The Defiant. I think this one might just be a little bit over for Dylan, unfortunately. Yeah. Really well done from Matt there. That grass type Primarina put Dylan in a really rough spot because that grass typing protected it from that Machagacha, from that Electro Shot. And it's also really nice to know from Matt that you can very comfortably survive Electro Shot and a +1 Dragon Pulse from that Archelodon. That gives you a lot more space to attack with that Primarina in front of something that could otherwise threaten some really heavy damage.
Matt did an amazing job of making sure you also had 2 grass types on the field next to each other.
Yeah.
Really limited the damage output of something like the Basculegion. We also saw the impact that that had in the Sinistra matchup in general. After the one-hit knockout, what an explosive start for Dylan in that game number 1. A Basculegion just couldn't get enough damage down after that point. Sinistra was so pesky. And then the King Gambit at the very end. Dylan just didn't preserve enough damage to deal with that Pokemon.
That Hariyama, its plight in that game might be a little bit indicative of its overall usefulness so far throughout this regulation. Hariyama got knocked out. End of list. And I guess it threatened the fake out there, but that was a pretty easy protect to dodge it. But really, that's kind of all you needed, right? The Wave Crash did a lot of damage to the Basculegion in recoil. You forced the Pelipper to protect so it couldn't Hurricane your Sinistra, so it could get Trick Room up pretty comfortably. And once that Trick Room went up, Matt found himself in a really solid spot.
As we get into this game number 2, Matt is leading the series 1-0. One more win and he will find himself into the finals of the Pittsburgh Regional Championships. Dylan needs to win a game to claw back in here. Matt's going to make an adjustment after that game number 1. Despite the fact that he won with a different lead, he will be changing things to the Archaludon and the Volcarona, and his own Archaludon is going to be able to take advantage of this beautiful rainy day that Dylan has set.
Volcarona doesn't necessarily love this position, though. It is the Terra Steel, so you don't have the option to terrestrialize into a water resistance. Even though Steel is neutral, the Choice Band rain-boosted attacks from this Basculegion will likely be enough to just knock it out with that Steel typing anyway. We do have the option for Flip Turn, though, if you're Dylan. That's something that Ofamezi was talking about. You know, I love being able to just go for that Choice Scarf Flip Turn with my Basculegion, and a Swift Swim Flip Turn is just about the same.
Be a nice pivot. Dylan has a lot of other tools that we saw in that very first game, and if you are able to pivot into your own Archaludon or something like that, that's going to have the Assault Vest that'll help you out versus what you've already seen Matt reveal in this game number 2. But Dylan's just going for it. Goes for the Flip Turn with the Terra Water attached, which is going to do a nice chunk of damage to the Sinistra. Maybe even get it into a position where Pelipper can actually follow that up with something like a Hurricane. But Dylan also has the ability here to just set a Tailwind and try to go from there. Give his own Archaludon the speed control in the next couple of turns. Electroshot's going to move first, though, from Matt's Archaludon. Doesn't even need to consume the Power Herb that it's holding on to since the rain is active from Dylan's Pelipper. So gets to use that Archaludon Electro Shot right away, bringing the Pelipper down to its Focus Sash and preserves that Power Herb for when the rain isn't active for a little bit later on in the game.
Smart targeting there from Matt as well. I think getting rid of that Focus Sash on Pelipper is really nice. You do somewhat risk the Pelipper protecting itself and not being able to do damage that turn, but knowing that, I think Flip Turn was probably the most likely option for that Basculegion. You want to be able to get some damage down into a target that you can be pretty sure is going to remain on the field. Tailwind does go up, which means that the Trick Room advantage will be set, or the speed advantage rather, will be set for Dylan for the next few turns. Sinistra might want to set up Trick Room here, but thanks to the damage it took from that Flip Turn, I'm not sure it's going to have enough to survive a combination of Electroshot and Hurricane.
Maybe even just the Hurricane by itself, but I think Dylan at the start will use this Electro Shot to go towards Matt's own Archaludon, start getting some damage down onto it. You can see the Assault Vest there. Archaludon's going to take about a third, and the Hurricane into the Sinistra is plenty to pick it off. So Dylan definitely knows his damage calcs there. Doesn't need to double up in order to ensure the KO onto the Sinistra thanks to that Flip Turn damage it already took on the previous turn. But Matt's not down for the count. This Archaludon can still get some work done. With another Electro Shot, it's going to be at +2 special attack and hit even harder with these Electro Shots. Luckily for this Pelipper, it's kind of already done its job. It got a KO onto the Sinistra and also set the Tailwind for Dylan. And you've got a free Tailwind turn for whatever Dylan decides to bring out in its place.
Kingambit and Volcarona, the last two Pokemon for Matt. It might be a little bit difficult to deal with this Basculegion, especially now that it has terrestrialized into a water type and will not be weak to Sucker Punch from that Kingambit. It is still at full HP as well, so one Sucker Punch almost certainly not able to knock it out unless you're able to set up something like a Swords Dance, but I'm not sure you'll ever have the room to against a Body Press Archaludon, and of course this Basculegion threatening really heavy damage with these Terra Water rain-boosted wave crashes. That's something that I could very easily see knocking out the Archaludon on Matt's side of the field as well. A very bulky Pokemon on the defensive side, but I don't know how much bulk you need to protect yourself from all those multipliers. It's probably a lot more than you got.
Kind of too bad because the Archaludon would love to utilize this +2 special attack it's got from those chained Electro Shots. It also needs to keep itself safe since Dylan still has advantage in Tailwind. Both of these Pokemon, the Basculegion and Dylan's Archaludon, will be moving first outside of the priority Sucker Punch that brings this Basculegion down about 50% of its HP. But a Wave Crash targets correctly into the open Kingambit. That's a one-hit knockout with the Terra Water in the rain.
Unfortunately for Matt, this might be curtains as this Basculegion now has free reign to fire off one more Wave Crash on the next turn. The Dragon Pulse will come through here from Dylan's Archaludon, trying to finish off Matt's. But since the Tailwind is still up, the Volcarona and the Archaludon are in dire straits. This Basculegion, again, the terrestrialization still available for Matt, and you could try and go for the Terra Steel and hope that that's enough to hang on for this Volcarona, but I'm not convinced it will be. Basculegion is very, very strong with the Rain and the Terra and the Choice Band, and a Wave Crash should be able to finish off either of these two targets.
Yeah, with 2 turns of rain left, it's going to be very difficult to try to get through that. This Volcarona doesn't have Protect, so there's no way to actually block any incoming damage outside of going for the Terrestrialization and hoping that it's enough. But the power of Wave Crash, especially when this Basculegion has also gone for the Terra Water, there are very few Pokemon that can actually stand up to that. But Volcarona is still going to try its best. Now that it is a Steel type, it will go for the Rage Powder and redirect away these attacks from the Basculegion as well as this Archaludon. So let's find out just how powerful this Basculegion is. Another Wave Crash, and that's another one-hit knockout for the Basculegion.
Unfortunately for Matt, just not enough to handle this very powerful Basculegion. Dylan went on the offensive much more much more quickly in this second game of this semi-final match, and it's paying off very well. His own Archaludon should have the chance to fire off a Dragon Pulse here, which after an Electroshock boost should be more than enough to seal up game number 2 and send us to a decider.
Dylan really quickly evens up the score here in this match, 1 apiece, as we need to go to another game 3 to decide who will move on to the finals.
We absolutely love to see it. Dylan, a really impressive turnaround there after what was a pretty shaky game 1. It felt like Matt controlled game 1 very, very well, especially with that Primarina that was able to fire off those very powerful Moonblasts. But after Matt decided not to bring Primarina to game 2, he lost his water resist, especially since that Sinistra went down so fast. None of his Pokemon remaining are going to be able to take a Wave Crash. And again, something like Basculegion, if it is attacking with Wave Crash and not taking a KO, that's kind of the only way you're going to be able to beat it.
Jeez. King Gambit,
Yeah.
Corona. Oh my goodness.
Can't save you.
There's very few things that can be saved in front of Basculegion, who is avenging all of its friends to the very end.
I mean, the good news is you do have Sinistra, you do have Primarina, you do have Archaludon. If they're near full health, and they haven't kind of Terrestrialized away from one of their resistances, they should be able to tank at least 1 Wave Crash, even with that Rain and the Terra Water and the Choice Band. And thanks to resisting it, I don't know that the Wave Crash is going to do enough damage for a 1 big knockout. You just have to position them well enough to afford that damage, right? The first turn of game 1, Matt did lose that Hariyama right off the bat to the Wave Crash, but he was very much okay with that because that meant he got the Trick Room up and could start swinging with that Primarina, and Dylan just didn't have a response to it. Game 2, he just didn't have that chance to go for those offensive attacks.
Matt and Dylan are both hoping that they can get to the finals of the Pittsburgh Regional Championships after already achieving one of their best tournament results ever. But they stand in front of each other as the final hurdle to get to Unbetter Metal. Dylan, at this point of the road, will be going with the Pelipper and the Basculegion as Matt runs back the Hariyama next to that Sinistra, hoping that this Trick Room will be able to get him the win.
This is identical to game number 1. If we see a fake out into the Pelipper from Hariyama, we will get to see Trick Room go up. Depending on how Dylan plays this, we might get to see a little bit of a different look at how he looks into handling that Trick Room.
Well, Dylan's going to just remove the Pelipper right away, recognizes that the Rain could be very valuable later on, and so will this Fake Out. Archaludon is going to be the one on the receiving end of that and gets a nice stamina boost for its troubles. Another Wave Crash from Dylan, doesn't Terrestrialize the Basculegion because he knows he doesn't need to, and it's a one-hit knockout onto the Hariyama. But that leaves the Sinistra alone to be able to go for that Trick Room and make sure that Matt is going to have that speed control. But is the Archaludon from Dylan in a better position now, as we saw from that first game?
I think much better. Coming in immediately with that stamina boost, being able to take advantage of Trick Room right off the bat without having to swap something out, leaving the Pelipper behind, not leaving it behind, retreating it back to preserve that Focus Sash for a later time, I think is a much better way to start off this game with this set of leads for Dylan. Gonna run a similar spot to the beginning of game 1 where Machagacha most likely will be able to knock out Basculegion after that recoil from Wave Crash, but I think Dylan's probably okay with that. With Trick Room going up, you're gonna need to find a way to get your own Sinistra back in to reverse it if you want to be able to attack with Basculegion again, and that might just be a little bit too difficult.
Running back that game number 1, Matt is steadfast in the strategy of terrestrializing this Primarina to the grass type. Primarina uses the Moonblast, and the Archaludon is able to chunk it down quite a bit, and these stamina boosts are just not paying off in front of these two special attackers. Sinistra gets away with a Calm Mind boost, raising its special attack as well as its special defense. Will not matter in the face of this Basculegion, but it certainly does for this Archaludon. Still enough HP to allow it to get one attack off, and it has opted into the Electro Shot to raise its special attack and deal some damage to this Primarina, but the Terrestrialization keeps it so safe. But is that enough crit damage to get the KO?
Wow.
So close, but yet so far.
Really great read from Dylan there. That's a really risky wave crash to go for. Of course, you could just lose that Basculegion, but the grass typing does save Primarina thanks to resisting that Electro Shot. Again, I think the right call from Dylan to make there, just unfortunately barely not enough. And now the +1 Machagacha, certainly enough to knock out Basculegion. We saw Moonblast do enough to KO this Archaludon after another attack. And now, again, Matt has made great use of this Trick Room so far, especially considering after this Basculegion goes down, that's one of his last physical attackers that we're going to be able to see get through this calm-minded Sinistra.
Dylan's able to bring in his own Sinistra, though, and make use of that Hospitality ability. Gives over just a bit more HP to this Archaludon, and it's just going to do the job to keep Dylan's Archaludon in this, but the Machagacha connects onto both Pokemon. So Archaludon goes down without being able to get off a second attack, and the Sinistra is also going to switch into just a bit of damage. A couple more turns of Trick Room we are going to have here between Matt and Dylan, and the Pelipper has to come back out.
Pelipper now, again, vulnerable to a combination of attacks here. Sinistra does not carry Protect for Dylan, so a Moonblast and Machagacha might be enough to confirm a KO there. Though it is holding that Citrus Berry, so I think that may be able to keep it around for at least one more turn. And if Pelipper's able to go for a Hurricane, that could be a big difference maker.
The Pelipper also has to Protect, so what is Dylan going to prioritize here? Trying to get a knockout and hoping that Matt doesn't target down the Pelipper? And hoping that maybe his own Sinistra is faster to actually get that KO onto the Primarina first? There's a lot banking on this turn here for Dylan.
It really is. Of course, the Kingambit in the back is ready to come in and Sucker Punch that Basculegion at a moment's notice as well. So Pelipper might be a very important piece here. Dylan recognizes that and keeps it safe this turn.
But Primarina reads the Protect and uses the Moonblast into the Sinistra instead. Drops the special attack, but that's not going to be hugely necessary with just how much HP this Primarina has left. With the Citrus Berry, you get a little bit of recovery. And the Machagacha from Matt Sinistra is going to move first in Trick Room. But the opposing Sinistra avoids the attack. So Dylan is able to reverse the tides, reset the Trick Room, and Pelipper will now be the fastest thing on the field.
All right, that's exactly what you needed if you're Dylan there. You do reverse the Trick Room, you're able to get your Pelipper and Sinistra attacking first. You almost definitely have to go straight for a Hurricane into Sinistra here. Hope that in combination with a Machagacha is able to KO that Sinistra with that Calm Mind boost, though I don't know if that's enough. Stellar Terra, though.
Stellar Terra is going to push some of this damage a little bit further. Hurricane going to get a nice boost with this Stellar Terrestrialization, but with the +1 to the special defense of the Sinistra, might be able to keep it from getting knocked out, and it does! Sinistra has a critical survival here, but Dylan Sinistra is hoping to finish up the job. If it's able to get the Machagacha damage, it would be able to stop this Trick Room from getting reversed, but it's at least able to secure the knockout onto the Primarina, but you can see how well the Sinistra is able to hang on. The burn is quite nice, though. It puts the Sinistra on a timer, but not before the end of this turn.
Yeah, we'll have at least a couple more turns to be attacking. Primarina does go down, though. So Matt is down to just his Sinistra and Kingambit. Sinistra yet to attack has set up the Trick Room, so now the speeds are flipped once again. Dylan's Basculegion will be struggling with that Swift Swim, but actually no, the rain did just stop. Probably not enough to allow it to be attacking first. Should be trained a bit in speed if I have to imagine. But that Pelipper with the Stellar Terrestrialization I thought might be enough. Without that Calm Mind boost, it certainly would have been.
But this is actually a good thing for Dylan, I think. You still have the Sinistra. Safety Goggles on the Kingambit is going to make it difficult to redirect away the attacks from this Kingambit, but the Focus Sash being intact from the Pelipper may allow it to stick around for another turn. But Dylan has to bank on something missing, and it's going to have to be the Machagacha from the opposing Sinistra. Kingambit moves first, though, gets the knockout onto Dylan's Sinistra, bringing him down to his final two Pokemon. Basculegion has to come in and be susceptible to the Sucker Punch. But with Machagacha now breaking Focus Sash on this Pelipper, actually still brings it down quite low. Sinistra's going to get a lot of HP recovery from that. And Pelipper has its work cut out for it. Hurricane in the rain does have a chance to miss, and Sinistra is going to avoid it. Looks like it's starting to get very tight here, but Matt is in the lead.
Unfortunate miss there, but I do think this King Gambit would have been able to finish off this game regardless, especially because that Focus Sash was broken on Pelipper by the Matcha Gotcha. There is no more rain. Pelipper's only 2 attacks are Hurricane and a normal type Weather Ball, which will not be able to deal much damage to King Gambit.
So we see the forfeit locked in, and congratulations to Matt Tid in his top 4, has moved on to his first finals.
Unfortunately, we deny the Daniel Yu and Friend Mirror match in the finals here, but Matt Tid showing that this really creative team, this really cool Sinistra that I don't think anyone else has been looking into for the entire Regulation H format is very powerful.